Hello, hello, and once again, everyone. Happy Friday Eve. If you are watching this live, good day to you. If you are just watching the replay, today we are talking about to keep your people, you have to let them go. I have my friend Angela here, and we were having a conversation, and she said that line to me, and I said, "Wait, what?" You got to run that back for me, Angela. So it took me a while to catch on, but I have her here so she can explain what she meant by that statement to you because I think it is so profound and so important to talk about. So, Angela, without further ado, I am going to let you introduce yourself to the people and also explain that statement.
Thanks, Jevon. It's great to be with you here today. So, hi everyone. I'm Angela Schmidt. I'm the founder and CEO of Ask Talent Solutions, and I help leaders hold on to their talent. So, my philosophy is to keep your employees, let them go, and what that means is give your employees a voice, set them free in your organization, help them grow, let them know their contributions are valued, and when you do, they give their best back to the organization. So if you really want the best business results, you have to help your employees achieve their goals first. Um,
I wholeheartedly agree. That is that is like everything I've ever wanted to hear. And you've been at this for a while. You've been in HR space for what, like 30 years or something like that?
Almost 30 years. I can't believe
Almost.
it.
Wow. So you definitely know, you've probably seen just about everything. And, we're seeing the issue with not doing that right now. We've heard about the disengagement and quiet quitting and all these different sayings. But tell us, like, why does this matter so much right now?
Well, I'll say so. Yes, I'm seeing the same things you are seeing, and it's really concerning. And I'll tell you that this came out of all my experience, right? So this is not something I just invented or came up with to sound good. It's actually things that I have seen over companies about what worked and what didn't work in the last 30 years, right? So just like a lot of people out there, I've had the really negative experiences and I've had the really good ones. And in the good ones, there are great bosses that helped me grow. We had teams that collaborated, we had good cultures to work in. And when I remember what happened in those environments, we were hitting on all cylinders. We had the best results. There was no obstacle you threw in the way that we couldn't figure out, no market condition that we couldn't work around. We were supplying talent to the organization, engagement was high, every metric was improving, and it was like home runs all around.
Mm.
And then I think about the negative experiences I had, and it's like it could be anything from maybe the boss that's not so supportive to like the really toxic and negative environments. And man, like you sit back and it's like, okay, if we got results, it was in spite of us, not because of us. You saw that like the amount of time that got wasted there was unbelievable. Like the opportunities left on the table, the time that people spent more complaining versus, really being engaged in driving the work forward. And sometimes there would be these cultures where it was like, well, there's an opportunity there and I might know how to fix it, but I am not putting myself out there in this environment because I'm not going to be the one throat they choke if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And
Wow. One throat. Yeah, I like that. I'm not going to be the one throat they choke if it doesn't work
right,
out.
that was an actual leader I worked for. That was his philosophy on accountability: is who's the one throat that I choke if this doesn't work. I mean,
Wow.
talk
Wow.
about stifling innovation.
That's a saying you don't hear very often. I mean, I don't want to hear that, right? How does that make you feel psychologically? Like, you're talking about choking people, like in a
Right.
workplace. So what I would ask is, like, we hear about these things, and a lot of leaders, they don't understand right now. They're like, "Hey, man, I'm giving you everything you want. I'm paying you well. I'm giving you these benefits and all that other stuff." So how do we get those leaders who just are blind to what is required and what is needed for people to operate at their best? What do we say to them?
Well, I think, I always like to start with the data, right? So first, let's paint the picture of what's really happening. And yes, a lot of leaders are feeling like it's an employer's market. I have choice. There's so many people out there looking for jobs, but let's look a few steps ahead. So when you think about what's going on this year, you have a larger portion of the workforce that's going to hit retirement age than any other year in the past. And so there's potential that we're going to be losing a lot of the seasoned, experienced leaders in the market. And now put that together with like AI's up and coming and it's really quickly absorbing some of these entry level jobs. So
Mm.
the pools that we have within our organizations to look for that future talent, that's getting smaller and smaller. Um, And so, a lot of companies are talking about this, like, what's the challenge of building leadership for the future? And I'm worried that I don't have the pipeline I'm going to need to be successful for the next decade. But very few organizations are actually talking about what does that mean for the rest of the employees? And if I'm going through this turbulence at the leadership level, how is that going to trickle down to the rest of the population? And what do I do about it? Right. And it's, um, the employment relationship is just like any other relationship. And so you have to invest in it. You want to connect with people. Like, you don't want to put the success or failure of your organization all hinging on that relationship with that one leader. That might be a new leader, that might be not as seasoned as the leaders that were there before, that might be kind of struggling to get up to speed and really understand how to lead in this multi-generational challenging environment. And so I think, the data is telling us we have to look ahead and we have to think bigger than just building a leadership pipeline. We've got to be thinking about the whole population.
And it really goes back to what you said. Like, you have to make space for them to be able to share ideas, to innovate, to fail forward, to try things, to speak up. And it's just like, people are so afraid because everything is so uncertain. Like,
Yes.
I can literally, in this economy, or this space that we're in right now in the workplace, someone can literally go to work with no inclination that it's their last day, and then get an email that they need to join a Zoom call, and that's it. And then, as of today, that you're terminated. It is insane how we are disconnected from our ideas and our decision making as leaders. Like, we're seeing people who have just lost all emotional intelligence leading these organizations, and we can blame it on tech, and we can blame it on economies and uncertainty and business having to move at the speed of business and all these things. But what it really is tying into is the fact that we are putting people in positions who have never received the proper training, or the proper they're not in the right mindset, they don't have the proper culture inside, because we know
Yeah.
culture starts individual level, right? And
Yeah.
that's what we're seeing right now, right, Angela? It's like talent acquisition. One of the things we always talk about is hiring right, and I feel like we're getting it wrong, and now we're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like we're treating talent like it's disposable. They're
Mm-hmm.
not people, right? And so really, if you're investing in developing people, you already have people in your organization. And yes, sometimes people aren't the right fit, right? Maybe they don't have the capability to keep growing, whatever. But it really upsets me when I see that people have talent in the organization and they're just not investing in it, and they're going past it and then saying, yeah, let's just move on, let those people go, and let's see what other shiny new penny is out there. And when you actually look at the numbers, a huge percentage of people that might be superstars in one organization don't necessarily come to the new organization and have the same level of success. And so companies are making these trade-offs without really looking at the impact it's having on the business.
Absolutely. So here we go again, right? I know there's some people saying, like, letting go isn't losing; it's leading with trust. True leaders know freedom fuels loyalty. I like that.
I
But
love it.
like, these mantras and these sayings are great. We hear them all the time, but how do we actually incorporate that into our daily operations within these organizations?
I think, in my opinion, there are three things companies should be doing, right? And I'll preface this by saying, all the things we typically think of, if you're a leader in operations, there are certain things that are tickets to the game. Knowing how to manage your P&L, knowing how to pull the levers, knowing how to do things efficiently. Like, those are no longer the big success factors that make you a great leader, right? It's all the other softer skills, and whether you can motivate your people to give their best, and whether you can lead through others. That's your ticket to the game. That's like your success going forward, not just that baseline. Um, and so the first thing that I think every company should be doing is staying dialed into your employees at all levels. Like, understand what motivates them, understand what their needs are. You can start with the data, right? Most companies have engagement surveys. You might have turnover data. Maybe you've got performance data, manager assessments, whatever. Whatever you've got that you can get your hands on, start with the data. And that can tell you maybe some hot spots you want to be aware of, maybe also some bright spots in the organization that you want to take inspiration from or learn from. But then you have to get out and talk to people. And it's, you want to understand more than just like what's making you unhappy. that I could take out of your way, right? Because you don't want to just go from, oh, you were dissatisfied about something, I'll remove that, and now you're just at a neutral place. You want to really understand what would make them proud to be here, what would make them feel great about this organization, what lines you up to our mission. So all of those kind of big picture tying to the emotion type of questions that you can get out of people that understands not just how to take them to neutral, but how to take them to that highly engaged state where they're going to want to give the extra discretionary effort.
Absolutely. And you're speaking to me like you're speaking my language, Angela. Like everyone knows, like emotional intelligence and that level of intelligence is the most important to me. And it's because of exactly what you're saying. And I feel like we are so afraid to tap into emotion, which is AKA just being human, that we're missing out on that key data. So we get all this technological data, we have these pretty dashboards, but what really tells you if we're in success or failure are the people. And we're
Yeah.
just not asking them enough. We're not talking to them enough. We're not coming down, like you said in that first goal, like understanding what's happening at each level. And we're also not entrusting the frontline leaders or managers to say, hey, what's going on? What are you seeing? We're saying, hey, here's a directive, get it done or else. And I'm a military guy. I was in the Army for a while, and I know that that just does not work anymore. That may
Right.
have been the old style of leadership, but people today don't operate well with that. Whether they're Gen Z, Gen X, baby boomers or not, they're just not putting up with that type of leadership anymore.
Right. And you know how powerful it is? Like, ask somebody what matters to them and then act on it. Like,
Yes.
it's such a powerful motivator. And I'll give you an example how it can surprise you sometimes. I've worked in the veterinary industry, and there are 18 jobs for every veterinarian out there. And so it's like highly competitive, and you're always thinking about what am I going to do to attract and retain this population? And when we talked to them, what they told us was number one on their list was designing a paid parental leave policy that would support the staff in their practices. That never would have made it onto the list if we were just sitting here thinking like, what else can we do to attract and retain? But when you ask people, they'll tell you what really matters. And so that was just huge and like an eye-opening experience of when you ask people, you might learn something you didn't think of. And just think of what we might have invested otherwise in something that wasn't going to get us that same benefit.
Man, I'm glad you hit that because it's like companies are always talking about money, like you said, the P&L and the balance sheets and all these other things that yes, they are important to you and should be, but when you think about where the money goes and where the budget is going, the first place that people cut or businesses cut is typically like talent development. And
Yeah.
I can't for the life of me understand that. I mean, when I talk to these leaders and I'm like, hey, what do you care about? They always say people, developing our people, making sure we take care of them, make sure we have succession planning, all these things, but it doesn't add up because when I say, okay, great, here's the plan and here's the strategy to improve your leadership effectiveness, your organizational capacity, and all these things, they say, well, that's not in our budget. So it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting, right?
Oh my God. Yeah. That
And that's before we even get to talking about what the actual price of the thing is. It's just like, hey,
right.
here's what I'm thinking may help you. So it's
Right.
like, why do you think that is? That they say the right things, but then the actions just do not match in most cases.
I do think somebody in the chat hit on a lot of it. It's like you have to lead with trust, right? That's a huge part of it, in being able to let go a little bit. But I want to talk about, there are two things you hit on I really want to go into. First, the money piece, right? So that's a reality. No company has infinite resources. And even if you're talking about money in the budget, or you're talking about resources of like, how are they going to have people's time taken up or just time within the organization, like that all matters. But I think you have to steer it in a really thoughtful way. So you're listening to what people are asking for, then go look at what is the value proposition you're offering them today. Map it all out in a big pie chart and see like, how does what they're asking for line up with what you have today? How does it line up with your business strategy, talent strategy, and pick the first few things that you can go after and see if there are other areas that you can make trade-offs. And it's not always a one for one. It's not always exact. Sometimes it's incremental spend if the ROI is there. But I think you do have to be This isn't like just an open checkbook to say, listen to what your employees ask for and then just go do it. There's a reality that we are running a business. We have bottom line results to deliver, but people also get that. And so start like kind of steering the investments based on the population that you're looking at, based on what makes sense for the business and what they're asking for.
Absolutely, and you know what I've found coming into organizations is a lot of times when they do look at what they're spending money on, like you were talking about those benefits, a lot of that stuff goes unused,
Yeah.
and we typically find that when they create these packages in a vacuum, that's when a lot of the spend goes down the drain. So it's like when we reallocate, when we do listen to what actually matters, and do like a benefit selection opportunity, then that's when we're seeing more engagement. We're seeing employee happiness index scores go up. We're seeing all these things, productivity, of course, because they're like, this place really listens to me. So it's really, on the surface, we have a grand challenge here, but it's really some simplistic things that we can do in incremental steps, as you said, that can
Yeah.
help kind of change what we're seeing in the workplace today.
Yes, agreed. And you talked about the talent piece and talent development, right? That mindset that developing people is extra work and extra everything. I just think that's such a limited mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in order to really do this well, you want to have the mindset of a talent champion. And that means you are somebody that looks at developing your team the same way you look at how you're driving your P&L. You're thinking about everything you can do day to day to give a development opportunity and not seeing it as this separate layered on activity that's completely separate for the work from the work. I mean, first of all, like, isn't it true that 70% of your growth comes from on the job anyway? It's not from just the training or just the mentorship that you might get outside of that. It's from actually being able to take that and apply it. And so the on the job is really important.
Absolutely.
Um,
We all know adult learning happens in doing, right?
right,
So
right.
because it really addresses every type of learning style, whether you're kinesthetic, your visual, your audio. Doing the thing has you enthralled in immersed in all of that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. We have some good. So let's see. Powerful message. Letting go is real strength. Sometimes letting go shows the deepest care. We got Jeff. Thanks, Jeff. It's good to see you as well. We just said good to see us, and give them wings and they'll choose to stay. And everything is aligned with what we're talking about here today in those comments. But what I want others to understand is, like, when we're talking about to keep your people, let them go. We're talking about what is human, what is natural, and that's autonomy, being able to speak up, being able to share your values, of course, tactfully, and then
Yep.
also making sure we align organizational goals with the individual goals, right? And that's what I feel is always a disconnect when I talk to organizational leaders. They're like, "What do you mean? How do you mean?" So, can you talk about that piece a little bit, because you mentioned it as well as one of the things that we need to do.
Yeah, I think you just have to be transparent with people. And I think sometimes we underestimate people's capacity to understand, right? Like, I remember one time going into a new organization and I had teams that were feeling somewhat frustrated, right? They felt under resourced, they were working hard, they didn't feel heard. And I wasn't aware of that at the time we had this conversation, but I just started talking to them about where we are as a company and this and that. And a big part, the company was growing very quickly. We had made some additional investments in headcount, which took our SG&A kind of out of the range of where you want it to be. And it was done intentionally. So we said, okay, we believe the revenue is going to catch up and everything will right size by the end of the year. But that means we're going to have to hold on other hiring until we get to that point. And so I just gave the team that update as I was talking through where are we as a company and this is what's going on. And I actually had people come up to me afterwards and say, okay, that makes so much sense. And now I get it. I like, these were people that were feeling like the company didn't care about them, or feeling like, why am I working so hard and nobody's seeing it? And the truth is, once they understood the bigger picture perspective, they got it. And they said, okay, I still want extra resources, but now I understand why I had to wait. And now I don't feel like the company doesn't care about me. And so,
Absolutely. That
you know,
why is everything. It's like
right.
transparency and allowing people to understand and process why the decision was made is all people mostly usually are asking. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you hit on that.
Yeah, and like we've also worked on incentive plans, right? That would go out to the practice level or out to the store level and involve more employees. And I think when you educate employees around, like, hey, we are running a business, we want the business to be here in the long term. This is what a P&L looks like. This is how much we have to spend. This is how much we need to earn. You can get employees engaged. And if I said to you, we're going to test out an incentive in your store, but it's only going to pay out if you exceed your budget, you would be amazed at how much people start looking at, wait, why do we have extra inventory here? Why are we overstocked here?
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, everybody's engaged in helping you get to that bottom line. So it's like, yeah, opening up that transparency, the trust, the communication, that's a key way to get everybody involved in the business and to let people have a voice as well.
Yeah, I think that empowerment is key. What you're talking about here, Angela. Like, if once we empower, because as leaders, those senior leaders, you can't be everywhere. So if you say, "Hey, here's our goal," like
Yeah,
here's how you can help us, then that's going to get it, and it also provides that there's two things people really focus on and care about: meaningful work and recognition. So if
yeah,
we give them the meaningful work of saying, "Hey, you can help us out reach this huge goal at whatever your job is by doing X thing," they're going to find ways to do it better than possibly you could.
yes,
That's one of the things I've realized.
yeah,
So just give them an opportunity, give them a chance, and gamify it a little bit. Hey,
yeah,
if your department or your store or whatever you do in your business, like if y'all do it well, your team wins. Hey, we got something for you. Whatever
yeah.
that thing is, doesn't have to be huge, right? It could be just recognizing them on a big board and say, "Hey, you're the leader. Your team did this." Could be
Uh,
giving them whatever.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think some of the other reason why it doesn't always happen, like, look, everybody's human, and sometimes we do things without even realizing it. And we all want to be successful, right? So sometimes you encounter leaders that have this mindset of like, well, I want to support my people, but God, I don't want to be in a position where I lose all my best people. Like, I'm successful now because these people are driving this, and if they move on, like, what am I supposed to do? And I think if you envision this world where you are investing in development, so like every time you have a leave of absence, you're thinking about, ooh, leadership opportunity, who can step in and fill that to get some development and growth from it. Or every time there's a project or a new initiative rollout, you're like, who can step up and do this with me so I don't have to carry all the work? It's learning for them and they get exposure to a broader team. Like when you can think about that day to day and like you just see these opportunities and bring them up, you are creating a culture where your managers underneath you will do that as well, and you will have talent that's coming through your pipeline. And so instead of being worried about what am I going to do when Sue wants to move on and get a promotion, and like what if I lose her, you're going to be like, I am so excited for Sue. I developed her. I'm like so glad to see her go on, and now I've got Jane who's coming up right behind her, and like can't wait to give her that opportunity. And so it just creates this culture where you've constantly got a pipeline coming in and you're looking at potential, you're investing in your people, and everybody is kind of succeeding and thriving.
Absolutely. I come from the cybersecurity space, and one of the things that we recommend as practitioners is like mandatory vacations and job rotation. For a number of reasons. Of course, the security
Yeah,
aspect of it, right? You see what's happening, and if there's anything going weird, data is being exfiltrated or whatever. But there's also a component of not having bottlenecks, because if one person leaves, someone else needs to know that job. They need to be cross trained. There needs to be someone to step in, so there's redundancy, and a lot of organizations just don't have that,
yeah,
especially now that the headcount is being reduced. So it's like once we get back to those things, we're already preparing those next leaders. We're
right.
already preparing people to step into more responsibility. And then even in the military, like when you get promoted, you have already been doing the job of that promotion, most likely, because we
Yeah,
wanted to prepare you for that. Because people leader is completely different from tactician. So we need to make sure that you understand that, and that you're able to step in there and, like you said, get that under job training before we ask this plight of you, ask this role of you.
yes. I love that example about like the vacation piece, covering on vacation and doing the rotations. Those are both great examples of how you incorporate it day to day and you get to take a vacation. So that's
Yeah,
good for
right. We need vacation. We need some vacation. So we have one thing, and I know time is flying. We have 5 minutes, but Uselmi said autonomy is extremely important. But also, as a leader, another important part is making sure you check back in and recognize the great work they are doing, not just assigning the next project. That
yes.
is that is so key. Any thoughts on that, Angela?
Yes, I think that's huge. So when you think about what is development, it's opportunity plus feedback, and recognition can be part of the feedback. And so it's not just giving somebody the opportunity to do something. If they never get the feedback on what went well, what didn't go well, what could they work on next time, then you're not really helping them grow. And so I think that recognition is great, and like setting out those behaviors, letting everybody else know, not just celebrating the wins, but it also tells the rest of the employee group, like, hey, this is what we're striving for. This is what we want to see everybody doing. So it's great to recognize the individual. It's great to get the whole team aligned. And I think it's a critical part of feedback.
100%. I like that. Opportunity plus feedback is recognition. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, we are running out of time, everyone, unfortunately. So, Angela, would you tell everyone how to connect with you?
Yes, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm under Angela Schmidt, or my website at ask.talent, ask-talent-solutions.com.
Perfect, perfect. And if you are not connected with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Jevon Wooden. You'll see a light bulb. Go ahead and hit connect and send me a message. Let me know you saw my conversation with Angela. And if you have not checked out my YouTube channel, go ahead, search me. Go ahead and subscribe, because this is streaming on YouTube along with some other things. And let us know if there's any topics you'd like to be covered in our next segments. We got you. Until next time, every wait. Before I even close it out, Angela, any parting words for the people?
I think, there's that saying, if you love someone, set them free. And it's not just good advice for relationships, it's good advice for leadership. So I will leave you with that thought today.
I love it. Let them go. Let them fly like the birds they are. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. Yeah, we all, in all seriousness, like, the way to elevate, we have to, success is a journey that is a concerted effort by all, right? Even though we're talking about the individual aspect, we have to understand, especially as leaders, that it is not siloed. The people that you're making those decisions on, it should be with, but on, when you're doing that reduction in force or whatever you must do to get the business going, just tell them why and then support them through it. And you'll be surprised what comes out of that, because they're supporting you. You should be supporting them. So thank you so much for your time
Thank you.
today, Angela. Thank you for talking about
Thank you,
to
John.
keep your people, you have to let them go. I think that is so profound. And thank you, everyone who has watched and everyone who will watch. Remember to keep ascending. See you soon.